here. As you see Tim Rivera on your right, David Daniel on your left. Mono Black Devotion time is where we're at. Rivera's your 8 seed, Daniel's your 5. So Daniel will have the option to play or draw first. And as we do make our way through this semifinal match, don't forget, after game 1, we'll bring it back to the booth. We'll ask you a trivia question because we'll be giving away 6 months this go-around. And we'll work our way towards the finals, where we'll be giving away 12 months as well and crown ourselves our first of 3 champions today, as David Daniel is going to begin the show with a Temple of Deceit.
Yeah, so both players there on a 56-card mirror here. David Daniel has taken a little bit of a different removal path. He actually, instead of having all the Devour Fleshes, has some ultimate prices, which would figure to be pretty good here, with the exception of the fact that he also is running a Doomblade, which will be not as good here.
Ultimate Price, Desecration Demon, Underworld Connections, a Mutavault, and 2 Swamps are the hand here for Daniel. So Rivera's working with some good information here via Thoughtseize, and he's going to take the Underworld Connections.
Yeah, leaving Daniel with just a removal spell and a Desecration Demon, but Daniel did have a very good draw that turn. He drew a Nightveil Spectre. Though the matchup is really about Pack Rat and Connections, Spectre is probably the other, like, very close to those two and how important it is.
See, Daniel does play one of those swamps that Rivera does know about. He's going to play another swamp now for the turn, and there is the Nightveil Spectre that you did mention, so that's in play now, and that's difficult for Rivera to get off of the board, and for any mono black deck to get off the board.
Right. Rivera does have one of his own to block with. He knows it should be relatively safe because one of the removal spells that he left David Daniel is an ultimate price.
There's a Hero's Downfall. That'll take care of the first Spectre, but here's a follow Spectre from Daniel. So now Rivera kind of in the same spot as he does draw a Temple of Deceit. Does he have the 3rd black source to be able to cast his own Spectre?
Well, he has a Swamp, so he should be able to do it if he wants to. He also has an Underworld Connections. I think Rivera was hoping that for a window here where he could cast Underworld Connections. That's not really going to happen because he can't afford to be hit by Nightveil Spectre.
It is very dangerous if that does occur. So Spectre is going to show up. Here's a Desecration Demon, it looks like. There is the 6/6 flyer on Daniel's side. He'll pass the turn back to Rivera, who will untap and draw.
Yeah, well, Rivera has the better late game right now. He has the Pack Rat, he has a Nightveil Spectre, he has another Nightveil Spectre, he has an Underworld Connections, but right now he does not have a way to deal with the 6/6.
Just needs to make it through to the late game here, as he's already taken care of 1 Underworld Connections via Thoughtseize. He's got Nightveil Spectre on lock via Nightveil Spectre. It'd be ironic if he finds a Desecration Demon to take care of Desecration Demon.
Scries to the bottom. So we'll see, as you said, a second Nightveil Spectre. So at this point, David Daniel, he still can swing with the Desecration Demon, but if he does, he's risking he's basically allowing Tim to hit him with a Nightveil Spectre.
So let's see what Daniel's going to do here as far as attacks are concerned. Desecration Demon trigger is going to go into the stack. He's going to turn that sideways, get in for 6. Now the troublesome thing here for Rivera is that once you start letting it take 1 Desecration Demon is really all it takes, because now the Grey Merchant starts to show up, and now you're in danger of actually getting fireballed out at that point.
Right. So we do get a hit him down to 12. Yeah, he can't take another hit of that guy.
Ooh, Spectres are going to attack here. So he's getting a little bit aggressive here is Rivera. He's going to turn over a Pack of Rats.
Oh, Pack Rat's great. He does have another Pack Rat in his hand. What he's really got to hope for, though, is some way to deal with the Desecration Demon. And this is where it would be nice if he had the ultimate prices. You see Tim is playing Doomblade or Devour Fleshes over the ultimate prices of David Daniel, and it is hurting him right now. You know, that Devour Flesh is going to end up hitting a Mutavault if he ends up casting it.
Which Daniel does have 2 copies of in play at this point. So we're going to deploy a 3rd Nightveil Spectre, and Pack Rat's going to come into play as well. Probably going to bite an ultimate price here that that Rivera knows Daniel has, and that's exactly what's going to happen to the Rat.
Yeah, David needs to clear the way for that Desecration Demon to get 1 or 2 more hits in.
And I wonder if we're on chump block duty here. I wonder what happens if Daniel just fires up his Mutavaults and just says, all right, everybody get in there.
Well, if Rivera takes a hit here, he's dead to Grey Merchant. David Daniel doesn't have the Grey Merchant, but that's a risk that Tim may or may not want to take.
And that's exactly what David Daniel's going to do. He's going to fire both Mutavaults. Desecration Demon's trigger goes onto the stack, and will Rivera sacrifice maybe one of those tapped Nightveil Spectres to slow down the big 6/6?
This is a lot of damage coming his way. Now, granted, all it takes for Rivera to gain this life back is 1 Grey Merchant. He currently has a devotion of 9 to black.
Yeah. So what do you do here if you're Rivera? I think he almost has to sacrifice at this point, and he is going to sacrifice a Nightveil Spectre to Desecration Demon. He's going to tap that, and it's going to become a 7/7.
Yeah, it was either that or he just has to go to 2. he either needs to try to play around Grey Merchant or just concede that he can't play around Grey Merchant.
Now the question here with Daniel is, you see the Mutavaults are up there. They've already been activated. Is he okay throwing away a Mutavault to that Nightveil Spectre? Or will Rivera just put Nightveil Spectre in front of Nightveil Spectre? He's going to move it back. No attacks at all. That's a little bit surprising.
Well, it puts a lot of pressure on Rivera. Daniel doesn't have any more threats in his hand, so he doesn't really want to lose a threat. If he thinks he can just get Tim Rivera to sacrifice a Nightveil Spectre every turn, then he can just keep putting more and more pressure on as long as he doesn't lose a creature.
Okay. Rivera's hand right now, double Devour Flesh, Underworld Connections, and the Pack Rat.
Well, the second double Devour Flesh is good. He really would like another land, so he could cast Pack Rat, Devour Flesh, Devour Flesh. If he doesn't have that, he could cast the 2 Devour Fleshes and then sacrifice the Mutavault he has to the Desecration Demons to stop all the damage from this on this turn.
He's got a lot of lines to play right here. He can also just play Pack Rat and then discard the Underworld Connections, sacrifice the token to Desecration Demon, and still keep that on lockdown. We could also just see him attack with Nightveil Spectres, but he's just going to play Pack Rat and pass the turn back with some things available here. Again, does have double Devour Flesh, can make a Pack Rat token, so he's got some options.
Yeah, I think we might see... We're going to have to see another sacrifice to the demon.
Yep. I think once you start to go down that road, you have to continue down the road until you actually kill it. Looks like David Daniel, though, his hand, not really all that great. I think he's just got lands hanging out over there, not really doing much, much of anything right now.
Yeah, his board's very powerful, though. He may not need too much more to take this game.
And again, last turn I was a little bit surprised to see those Mutavaults get fired up and not get in there. Now here comes the demon. Block with my Nightveil Spectre. No need to sacrifice.
Yeah, once David Daniel says go to attacks, because he hadn't activated a Mutavault, it's probably best for Tim to just say, all right, attack me. Because if he does, then David can't activate Mutavaults.
We've got a Pack Rat activation and discard Underworld Connection. So Rivera feels like he does not have time to get that online. It's time to start Pack Ratting. If he draws a 6th land here, so he draws an Erebos, I wouldn't be surprised to see him make 2 Pack Rats. But Erebos, God of the Dead, how do we feel that changes things, if at all?
It is online right now, so that's pretty good. Unfortunately, Desecration Demon does fly. I'm thinking Tim will play it, but he also would have the option of making a Pack Rat and Devour Fleshing. It looks like what Tim's deciding to do is he's trying to race and sacrifice, which is I think, a pretty interesting line to be taking here. And one I hadn't really considered. So rather than trying to answer and remove the Desecration Demon, he's just going to try to aggro with this Pack Rat and tap the demon enough times to get to the point where David Daniel actually has to start chumping with the Mutavaults and the Nightveil Spectre.
And now, yeah, you mentioned we're getting hyper-aggressive with Pack right now because, we talked about Erebos just in the draw. Is he going to play that? What kind of effect is that on the game? It's just going to get discarded.
And
so Pack Rat's
going
to come in. Yeah, Pack Rat's going to come into play. So now we've got 3/3 Pack Rats. Mutavault can represent a 4/4 Pack Rat, or maybe he just wants to leave Devour Flesh up.
Yeah, so we see that swing for 6. That if David does not block, that will put him down to 12.
And now you really see the power of Grey Merchant in this matchup too. It's kind of swingy, and Grey Merchant is a card that can kind of swing things just right back in your favor immediately if either player draws one.
Yeah, it's really interesting how this matchup works out. Were I to say the cards that were very good in the matchup, I'd say Nightveil Spectre, Pack Rat, and Underworld Connections. Tim Rivera do lots of all of them, but here we see him on the back foot the entire game.
But he's catching up pretty quickly, and that's what Pack Rat will allow you to do, as a swamp is going to come into play here for Daniel. And it looks like he's thinking about maybe activating Mutavaults again. Maybe he has a removal spell as he's starting to tap a little bit of mana here. You can certainly see that he is flooding out, hoping that he draws an Underworld Connections, a Pack Rat of his own, something that he can really start to get this game back with, because before too long, he might just lose to this Pack Rat that Rivera has.
Yeah. It looks like he has a Hero's Downfall, though. So he's going to go ahead and go to attacks. It's going to be another chump by Nightveil Spectre.
That turn, as he does draw a Thoughtseize, does Rivera, I thought we might see a Devour Flesh targeting himself when he blocks with the Nightveil Spectre to gain a little bit of life back, but he opts not to do that. He's just going to do what Zvimašević does, get in there with Pack Rats.
I think he's trying to set up a board state that if he can get David to start chump blocking, then those Devour Fleshes stand a chance of taking down Desecration Demon. I think that's what he's going for here. So yeah, we see a swing with 3 Pack Rats right now. And David's going to have to block at least 2 of them. Tim can pump them up he can pump them up twice with a discard and a Mutavault activation.
Oh, Mutavault, what don't you do? You block, you make Pack Rats bigger, you attack.
There are very few decks in Standard right now that are not playing Mutavault.
Yeah.
And I think that's a testament to the card.
I mean, that's how it should be. That's how it was during its first lifespan, and it's back again and having a huge impact on our Standard format. You see Daniel, considering how he wants to block here, again, he's got the Nightveil Spectre in one hand, 2 Mutavaults in the other, and as you mentioned, he has a Hero's Downfall in his hand, we believe?
I believe he has a Hero's Downfall. So, double blocks a rat token. That will allow the rat to trade with the Nightveil Spectre. It's pretty good here.
Yeah, we'll see exactly how he does want to block here, however, because it looks like he's considering his options of what happens if I block this way versus double blocking with Mutavaults and things of that nature, especially when I have a removal spell, but I kind of want to hide it. The fact that I do have a Hero's Downfall in my hand right now, and it looks like he's okay with just that block.
Yeah, he kind of changed plans mid-block there.
Yeah.
He did activate both Mutavaults.
There's a discard of Thoughtseize for Pack Rat. And now an activation of Mutavault. Respond. Or maybe Mutavault does. Maybe the Mutavault activation happens. But either way, I think we're going to see a Hero's Downfall caster and maybe not.
Well, he can't let the rats be a 5/5. If they're a 5/5, then David Daniel loses both blockers here. So I think David Daniel's locked into casting this Hero's Downfall.
So there's your Mutavault activation, and David Daniel immediately taps those 3 lands. Does have that Hero's Downfall. He's just trying to figure out, what do I target?
Yeah, well, it's either one of the unblocked Pack Rats or it's the Mutavault. And it's pretty close between the two of them. He's going to go with the Pack Rat.
Yep.
I think he values his life total. Decide his life total is important enough to defend.
So we'll see some trades take place here. Nightveil Spectre's going to die. Mutavault's going to live. Pack Rats are going to die. Some damage is going to be dealt. I think Daniel's going to end this turn at 6.
Well, there's only one unblocked Pack Rat that got in
you're
there.
right. You're right.
It was a 4/4, so it's 8.
Okay.
And I really like this line, how Tim was so far behind on the board and decided that was the time to start racing.
Yeah. He's trying to whittle away here, try to cut the outs so the Gray Merchant can't play a huge role in this game. But I honestly think that's what Daniel may have drawn this turn. And Gray Merchant would have been much worse for him last turn.
When Nightveil Spectre was around,
Yeah.
certainly.
You see the Mutavaults are getting fired up again. It's not the first time we've seen him activate 2 of them. And he's going to activate a Mutavault of his own, will Rivera, and sacrifice that to Desecration Demon's trigger.
Now, if David indeed took the 4, and that'll be enough, Gray Merchant does the remaining 4 damage. That should be lethal.
No, Rivera only goes down to 4 at this point.
He didn't take damage off the Mutavaults.
So he was at 12,
He's
went
at
down.
12.
Yeah, he went
God,
down to
so
8 and then down to 4.
4 and 12.
Yep.
You're absolutely right. And teams need to find a way to push 8 damage across. He's going to go ahead and devour
Ooh,
flesh.
this is actually a really good
This
turn
is
for
very
him.
good. David Daniel did tap out that turn to make this play, which means his whole board is going to get devoured.
And kill that as well. Now, Daniel's going to draw a ton of cards, which is really, really good for him, of course. But now Rivera's starting to stabilize again, and those Mutavaults are going to have to come into the red zone in a moment. And Rivera likely can't attack here. I suppose he can attack with one of them and then block with the other one, but he just dies to a removal spell this turn if a Hero's Downfall is drawn.
That's a little aggressive. He's going to have to trade away all his Pack Rats with these Mutavaults. Well, I guess he didn't want to trade away all his Pack Rats.
Yeah, he blocks one of them, he goes down to 2, and now he's got a Pack Rat versus a Mutavault. And if Daniel were to draw a removal spell anyway, his Pack Rat would just turn into a 1/1 if he drew a Hero's Downfall or a Price. So he'd be in a bad spot either way. So I actually like that play a lot there by Rivera of just getting your points of damage in, because if he draws a removal spell, he's basically dead either way.
All right, so Tim Rivera down to 2. I mean, his draw for every turn here feels like it's going to be Pack Rat.
Yeah. I foresee a Pack Rat activation every turn for the rest of the game, as Rivera is going to attack just for 1 and pass the turn back.
And
There's a Thoughtseize.
drawn. And he'll discard Hero's Downfall to blank the Thoughtseize.
There's a Temple.
So David takes 2.
Now, does he attack?
I think so. I would think he'd attack.
Because if he doesn't trade the Mutavault with the Rat now, then he doesn't get to do it ever.
Last chance to.
Yeah.
And it sets back Tim a whole turn. Pack Rats deal damage in, they're like in squares. The 1, then 4, then 9, then 16. Setting that back a turn is pretty important.
You see David really considering, am I supposed to fire Mutavault and attack here? The answer is yes. Trade with the Rat token, pass the turn back. All right, Pack Rat, you've been trying to bring Tim Rivera home the entire time. There's a Mutavault. That's a huge draw. Activate Pack Rat, make a guy. Get in for 2. Now, of course, if at any point, and actually make it 3 because Mutavault, but if at any point David Daniel draws a Gray Merchant, it's over. Take a draw step. Hey-oh, there it is. Gray Merchant off the top.
David had about 2 turns to make that draw, manages to hit it, and takes down game 1.
So David Daniel will win game number 1 over Tim Rivera here in the Mono Black Devotion Mirror, as we are going to bring it back to the booth because it is trivia time. Time to give away 6 months of premium here with Star City Games. Very simply, get your Twitters open. We'll hashtag your answer with the hashtag of SCG Premium. Make sure you're also following at SCG Live, and we'll announce the winner at the conclusion of our semifinals. I've got the question this go around.
All right.
And
bring
it's
us on.
all right, it's a pretty easy one, honestly. In the blue-white-red control deck that we watched Stephen Phillips play for a really long time last round, he is splashing red for a couple of cards, but one of them is a counterspell. And if you're able to name the counterspell that Stephen is splashing in his blue-white-red control deck, hashtag your answer with the hashtag of SCG Premium on Twitter. Make sure you're following at SCG Live as well. And again, we'll be announcing the winner at the conclusion of our semifinal round. So it's about accuracy, not speed, as we make our way through this round and figure out who's going to be in the finals.
All right.
That was an interesting game there. A lot of back and forth, pack rat activations. Wasn't sure if Daniel was going to be able to overcome pack rat, but then he did.
Well, it's really hard to put your finger. This shows like how the matchup is really can swing. It was hard to figure out what the best cards in the matchup are. I mean, I think everyone can agree that pack rat's probably the strongest card in this matchup. We saw.
Yeah.
I mean, it did so much work. What is it? We saw Tim Rivera started to race with pack rat from board, which looked like he was all but kind of locked out of. What's interesting is the cards like Night Veil Spectre and Underworld Connections. You know, we can see them completely dominate a game, but at the same time, you can see them become pretty helpless in the face of a card like Desecration Demon.
So we're going to start on Rivera's side. You see the sideboards on the screen there for our viewers at home. 3 Lifebane Zombie, 2 Dark Betrayal, 2 Doomblade, 2 Pharika Skir, an Erebos, and 4 copies of Duress. You see David Daniel's side. He's got 3 zombies, 3 Dark Betrayals, 1 Devour Flesh, a Far and Away, 3 Pharika Skir, an Erebos of his own, and only 3 copies of Duress. So we can kind of analyze these at the same time. What do we like here outside of the very obvious one in Dark Betrayal?
Yeah, well, both players, actually, if you look at what their main deck is in addition to their sideboard, have pretty much access to the same 75. They just switched up which ones are in the main. We saw Duress be pretty good be boarded in last time we watched this matchup. It's kind of good. On the early turns, it's very important to hit, say, a Underworld Connections with it. So we saw people board it in. It can be pretty weak at the same time. So, yeah, Dark Betrayal obviously comes in. Pharika's Cure is probably a card that you'd want to use in the matchup to at least some number of, and that extra Erebos is probably good.
Yeah, Pharika Skir is interesting because it does give you a way to actually kill pack rat on the early turns of the game. Can also let you take care of Mutavault, but you know a lot of the time it's not going to kill some of the other things. Night Veil Spectre being the big one.
Yeah, it's really touch and go. Pack rat is that important that you almost want an extra removal spell for it, and killing Mutavault is always a good thing. But you're right that it's probably not something you want 4 of. Yeah, you want a critical massive removal, and I think whether or not you choose it or Devour Flesh really is the question.
Do you think either of these players want additional Erebos? They have 1 in their main deck already. Do you want to board up to 2?
Absolutely. The Erebos, if you can turn it on, is very hard to answer. It's not only a large threat, it draws extra cards, and if you don't need it, you can always discard it to a pack rat.
Okay. Well, we do see both players shuffling up here, and as we do find out what's happening in our other match between Stephen Phillips and James Redmond, we'll certainly let you guys know. Again, blue-white-red control on that side versus white weenie splashing red for Boros Charm and some other red spells. So we'll see exactly what's going to happen in that match. We'll also see what happens here as, again, David Daniel does win game number 1 over Tim Rivera in the Mono Black Devotion Mirror. One thing I find interesting about Mono Black, Matthias, is we saw Owen Turtenwald win Grand Prix Albuquerque, Paul Rietzel, top 8s. We see Sperling get 9th place in that tournament, and Todd Anderson make top 4. So we see those players who have a really good weekend. Then we see Grand Prix Vienna, no Mono Black in the top 16. We see Grand Prix Dallas, really no Mono Black there. Of course, heavy black splashing white, but those are, they're similar but different decks. It seems like, this deck kind of comes and goes in its popularity and how good it's going to be for a tournament.
Yeah, I mean, the deck is certainly powerful. I think when we saw decks like Mogus Marauder aggro and White Weenie aggro become more popular in the last couple weeks, that's been a little troubling for the Mono Black deck. Mono Black got really popular because of its excellent green matchups and the fact that it was a deck that was probably good against Mono Blue Devotion. That said, yeah, it does have some weak matchups against the small aggro decks, so sometimes it can fall out of favor.
Quick update for you guys in the other match as well. Stephen Phillips does win game number 1 with blue-white-red control over James Redmond playing the white weenie deck. So, uphill climb here for the aggressive player and what looks to be a pretty tough matchup, honestly. I think the white weenie deck is quite good against Esper, but it has a harder time against blue-white-red and blue-white in general. They don't have so many coming to play tap lands. That's the problem.
They have more Last Breaths, more Celestial Flares, less coming to play tapped lands. They aren't playing Thoughtseize. They aren't.
He's got a main deck Ratchet Bomb in his deck, does Stephen Phillips. So we'll see if that game will end up going to a third game or if White Weenie can come back and win the next 2. But we're going to turn our attention here to what we've got in front of you guys at home. Mono Black Devotion Mirror. Rivera is going to draw his opening 7. He'll be on the play this game. He's down to 6. Okay. Well, it looks like he doesn't look thrilled.
No, not too much. But he's going to keep it.
Yep.
All right. So we have a Temple of Silence from David. No player with a turn 1 Thoughtseize or Duress. And it looks like...
Is it back rat time? It is.
It's going to be back rat time. He's going for it early, which means it's answerable. And I think it is going to be answered. No, it's going to be mirrored.
Okay.
Oh, all right. This is more fun.
Let's do
I'm glad he didn't killing it. It's more fun when they both have one.
I don't know what your definition of fun is, but we're going to find out as Devour Flesh is going to take care of that pack rat.
Only one person gets one.
And now Tim can actually, if David has a Devour Flesh of his own, he can sacrifice a Mutavault. So, let's start the pack rat battle, shall we?
I think we may not. Yeah, I don't know if we have a kill spell. There's another pack rat in David Daniels' hand, so we might just do that instead.
There's a Nightfell Spectre.
That's pretty good too. Yeah, David can just wait until turn 5 to start pack ratting. That he can probably catch up to Tim Rivera at that point.
He might be able to. It'll be pretty tough. You see Rivera right now. He's going to attack with a pack rat, daring him to block in the face of a pack rat activation and a Mutavault.
Yeah, I like this where Tim's play is just play pack rat.
Yeah, I like this too. This is just play, activate pack rat, get in for damage. I think we'll probably see him Thoughtseize in 2 here.
All right, that'll make his hand slow on cards. He's going to Thoughtseize.
Let's take a look here. He's got a pack rat, a Duress, an Underworld Connections, and 2 Swamps.
I think he's going to take the pack rat.
I think he's going to take the pack rat too. He's going to pass the turn back.
And the draw, we'll see if there's any help. It's already pretty much too late to remove the pack rat.
I mean, that Spectre is going to be working overtime. It's going to have some timely hits. The Swamp isn't one of them.
That's not, nope. So Daniel drew a second Underworld Connections.
It's funny because, Connections obviously is a great card in this matchup, but it comes and goes and how important it can be. Right now, it's probably just not going to get the job done. He has to worry about one thing. And I say one thing, but multiple things in just these copies of Pack Rat.
I mean, Pack Rat's going to get big very quickly. Connections, I think one of the biggest strengths of Connections in the matchup is that it's very good at finding Pack Rats.
Yeah.
But if your opponent already has a Pack Rat, well, the game of finding Pack Rats is kind of already over. You're already losing that, and that's the more important game in the first place.
Yeah, it might be the mini game that he has to play now for Daniel is just activate Connections. He's going to have to lose some life, take some hits from Pack Rat, and just find running Gray Merchants to keep his life total high and drain Rivera's life total. As now Rivera's just going to do what he should do, which is just keep activating Pack Rats. Keep making Pack Rats, excuse me. And he could have activated Mutavault there. And okay, now he's going to. Okay, that's what I thought. So he's going to get in for 8 this turn.
Yeah, the thing is, even about running Gray Merchants, is that if you aren't killing Pack Rats while casting running Gray Merchants, the Pack Rats are going to run you over.
Yep. So can Daniel find a series of draws to get himself out of this? I think he might have to attack with the Spectre again.
Just remember watching this game, this is one of the things that people who play Limited, people used to do what Tim is doing right now in Limited.
Oh, yeah.
And that was...
Oh, I've been on this side.
Yeah, I've been on that side of it. It's fun.
I can thankfully say I've never been on the opposing side of a Pack Rat in Limited before.
What?
It has not happened.
Really?
It never happened once. And I've only dished out the Pack Rat beatings 2 or 3 times in my life. So I've never really got to, put people on tilt very much. But I've never been on the opposing side of a Pack Rat in that Limited format.
I mean, it happened all the time in Return to Ravnica. Then we got to play Gatecrash, and we didn't do it. And I remember when we came back to the full black, the first time I cast a Pack Rat, I just I felt bad. I was like, oh man, I almost just didn't even want to look at my opponent when I cast.
Oh no, you got to do it with a smile on your face.
I was like, man, I'm sorry that we had to go back to the land of Pack Rat.
There's a Dark Betrayal to take care of one Pack Rat. Here's a Hero's Downfall to take care of another one. Here's an activation, discard a Gray Merchant, so make a replacement one. So this is going to be attack here for 3, 4, 5, if I'm correct. Because 3 copies of Pack Rat and then the Mutavault?
Yes, it'll be for 5. If David Daniel, okay, he has an Underworld Connections, he's going to have to draw 2 more kill spells before Tim gets another turn.
Hey, it's possible.
It is possible. We will see. I don't think he drew 1 in those first 2 cards. That'll make it slightly less possible.
Spectre may have to come in here now too.
Yeah, so Spectre can hit and get a kill spell. He's got 2 more cards coming. You're right. They need to both be kill spells. Get all the pack rats off the board. Or it could be a kill spell and a pack rat.
That's true.
Because David right now could actually, if he draws a pack rat, could start winning pack rat races.
And I actually think we're getting to the situation now where Grey Merchant is actually quite a live draw here for Daniel. So he's going to draw a card and go down to 2.
Certainly he's a live draw for Tim at this point.
Yep, there's a duress. And Tim did discard a Grey Merchant the last turn to make more pack rats. Spectre is going to come in now, so let's see if David can find one off of Tim's deck. That is a Grey Merchant of Asphodel.
That should be good. That'll be good enough to buy him another turn at the very least.
That's going to be a drain for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Rivera goes down to 5. Daniel goes up to 9, I believe.
He does. Grey Merchant starts on Daniel's side of the board and is probably better than pack rat at this point.
Did Tim just find a What did Tim just find?
Devour Flesh, I believe. If it's a Grey Merchant, this is quite the slow roll. Well, no, it's
it doesn't get it
it's
done.
not lethal, is it?
Yeah.
You're right. It's not lethal. Yeah, I forgot that David was at 2, but no, he is up to 7 from Grey Merchant. So,
hold on just a second. If you ain't going to attack here 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, he can put him down to 1. So if he fires up both Mutavaults and attacks with everything, what happens here is that Grey Merchant would have to stop in front of a 4/4 pack rat, and then for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, he can put Daniel down to exactly 1. So I'm not sure that's going to get the job done either. But it will get Grey Merchant off of the board.
if he attacks with...
So if he fires up both Mutavaults, pack rats become 4/4s, and he has two 2/2 Mutavaults.
Right, so
so he would have to block a pack rat in this situation.
I mean, right now he has to block a pack rat this way,
Yeah, because this is lethal.
Because Tim could activate both Mutavaults, discard a card, and 10.
Mm-hmm.
I actually like this more, I think, because now Tim has all his mana to do other things with.
Yeah, depending on what the card is in his hand is right now too. I actually do kind of like this. Yep. So there's a block.
That will force the play. Discarding Devour Flesh for the rat to activate a Mutavault.
I think he activates the other one too. Yes. So he gets in for a bunch of damage here. Best of the turn back, and now he has to cross his fingers and hope that a Grey Merchant doesn't show up, basically.
Daniel's down to 4, but he will get 3 draws to find a Grey Merchant. One of them will be from Tim Rivera's deck. And he drew a Nykthos there.
Yeah.
That's a couple mana, right?
You're going to go down to 3, take a draw.
It's the Grey Merchant. No, it's a Swamp.
The issue here is that if he makes the attack that I had proposed, Daniel would be at 1. And then he wouldn't be able to draw off. He wouldn't get to draw a card of connection, so he could have cut in the draws. There's a Swamp, so that's not a Grey Merchant.
I think all he has is Duresses, Swamps, and Underworld connections. What he can do is he can play a Nykthos. He can use create a ton of mana, enchant a land, tap a land, and if he draws a Grey Merchant, I think he's still good.
Does he have enough to do that? If he plays a Nykthos, he can activate it for 5 mana.
It's only 5. You're right, the Grey Merchant's gone. I don't know if it's enough anymore then.
And he gives the Grey Merchant goes right back in the appropriate graveyard. I don't think that's a concession of the game yet, but if we play a Nykthos, activate, you get 5 mana. 5 minus 3 is 2. Put the connections on. He's still going to be a little bit short, I think, at this point. You see, David Daniel's going to try to figure it out.
If he connections something, yeah, he is a little short. Right now he has access to 8 mana. If you think that Underworld Connections costs 4, pretty much, then he will have 4 mana left. He will be 1 short.
So he's going to play connections like this. Yeah, so exact same thing that we had mentioned.
Yeah, he is going to be 1 mana short of a
Grey
Merchant. He drew a Hero's Downfall. It was in the wrong order, though.
So Tim Rivera mulligans a 6 that game, but he takes it down anyway because of a turn 2 pack rat. Tim Rivera evens it up against David Daniel in the Mono Black Devotion mirror.
Yeah, no, there was something we were talking, last time we saw this, we were talking with Osip about as far as how you sideboard. We saw Tim win with a turn 2 pack rat there. I'm thinking that on the play, Hero's Downfall is a strong card because you can kill a turn 2 pack rat and you can kill a Desecration Demon. But it's possible that on the draw, you may need to cut your Hero's Downfalls for more Pharika's Cures and Devour Fleshes just so you don't get turn 2 pack ratted.
Yeah, I could actually end up seeing that be the case here, as both players are going to go back to their sideboard and take a look at things. Again, I don't think a ton changes for either one. Tim took a brief look at his deck, and now he's back to shuffling. David Daniel looks like he's going to take a brief look, and now he's back to shuffling as well. So
neither player's making that play-draw switch.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like they're either of them are going to make the switch here at all. And again, as you mentioned, this matchup is pack rat based first and foremost. It seems like pack rat is 1A, Thoughtseize is 1B. Everything else is 2 through 20, basically, as far as things to do.
Yeah, they're all pretty. They all have their spot, right? Gray Merchant is the only card that's really as good as Pack Rat late game, but before that, it's not particularly good. Desecration Demon, if it's early enough and unanswered, could actually race a Pack Rat. But then we have Underworld Connections and Night Veil Specters that, in the board states where people just removal spell each other, those are the cards that break the game open.
Mm-hmm. So again, we think, as far as cards are going to sideboard in and out, in Dark Betrayal we already seen from David Daniels' side. Of course, that's going to come in. Maybe some copies of Freakish Cures, and then a lot of Duresses were in David Daniels' deck after sideboard. You saw him draw a ton of those, and that's part of the problem with this card, is that if you draw it at the wrong time, it's not going to be very good. But it's so good on the opening turns.
Right, on the opening turn, it's really strong. It helps, we were saying Duress into Pack Rat is a lot like Thoughtseize into Bitter Blossom in this matchup. It will clear the way for the card that wins you the game. So there's such a high upside to Duress, having with that turn 2 Pack Rat that you probably want the card. But you're right, late game it's really not good. Then again, cards that are not good late game can be discarded to a Pack Rat. So you have a little bit of leeway to play cards that are good early because of that.
Yeah. So we'll see what's going to end up happening here. Again, David Daniels is going to be on the play for game number 3. Maybe he can get off with a little Thoughtseize Pack Rat action. A combination that more players are talking about now. Just, I see it in a lot of player profiles and on Twitter and Facebook that just go, if you're not playing Pack Rat and Thoughtseize, what are you doing? You're out of your mind.
All right, so we are underway. There's not the turn 1 Duress for David, though.
No discard spell. It does have a Temple to See. It looks like he keeps his card on top. And now here's a Thoughtseize. Here's a Thoughtseize on David Daniels' side.
All right, and we have a Thoughtseize on Rivera's side.
Dark Betrayal. Ooh, this hand I don't like this. I guess this hand's okay, but you had 2 Gray Merchants, a Dark Betrayal, 2 Mutavaults, and a Swamp. There's no Pack Rat. Now your answer to Pack Rat on Rivera's side, if he has one, is gone.
This could be pretty dangerous. And look at...
he drew a
Pack Rat.
He didn't play it.
I don't know. I like playing... Now he's on the wrong side of the Pack Rat battles.
I'm so confused. Why wouldn't he play the Pack Rat and make Rivera have the removal spell?
That'd be one of those situations where you just very sheepishly... What I would do is I do think about sheepishly look away from the board and slide a Pack Rat into play and say, well, yeah, I had that.
I'm befuddled. I mean, I guess the thought process here is, I've got a Mutavault, I can sacrifice Devour Flesh, but if you use Hero's Downfall, which Rivera does, that takes care of that. And now David Daniels has to draw a removal spell right now, this turn.
This is the time, his chance to get Pack Rat off the board. He drew Thoughtseize. Close.
And now here is a Thoughtseize.
It.
Now I understand it's going to take Underworld Connection to see a handful of lands, and by that I mean a handful of Pack Rats.
Right.
But I understand. I mean, I get what David Daniel maybe his thought process is. I can beat a Devour Flesh this way, but make him have it.
Yeah.
Because it also makes it so Rivera's Pack Rat is a turn behind if he does have Devour Flesh, and it gives you the opportunity to draw a Thoughtseize and take it, which is what would have probably happened there in that scenario. You see a Thoughtseize here from Tim. He's going to take a Gray Merchant.
Being the second player to Pack Rat is so much worse than being the first player to Pack Rat that I don't think you can afford to waste the tempo like that. Even though you're right, protecting it is really valuable. You don't want to be the second guy making Pack Rats.
Yeah. Now you're just too far behind. I mean, he does have a Gray Merchant, but now he can't get Pack Rats off of the board. And I mean, he drew the perfect card, and I think he outthought himself by not playing it, thinking he could play around a Devour Flesh that Rivera may or may not have in his hand, which we now know he did not have.
Absolutely. So we see on 5 mana, David has the Gray Merchant, but Tim's at 14. It's far too high to start Gray Merchanting him, and these Pack Rats are going to get big very quickly.
Yep, it's going to get ugly. It is going to get ugly. You see 2 Mutavaults there for David Daniels' side. You mentioned the Gray Merchant that he does have in his hand, and he has a mystery card over there as well. Rivera has textless cards in his hand. There are no text, basically, on the cards in his hand that he'll have for the course of this game. It'll just be Pack Rat City. And we do have a quick update for you guys on our other match. Stephen Phillips does win 2 games to 0, so Blue-White-Red Control is going to move on to the finals to play against Mono-Black Devotion, and what looks to be, I could be wrong, of course, Tim Rivera, as Mutavaults are going to come into the red zone here.
All All right, both are activated. They're going to hit Rivera down to 10. And I do think David Daniels playing to his outs. What he's trying to do is chip enough damage at Rivera so that this Gray Merchant and maybe the top decked Gray Merchant he hasn't drawn yet could be lethal.
Yeah, and I like playing to your outs to see if you can maybe get there and get lucky or what have you. But the issue with this plan, of course, is that Pack Rat will mill you down real fast. And so it's going to get in here. He's going to discard his Swamp. So it's going to be attacked for 3, 6 right now.
He could make it 8, but he's going to leave back the Mutavault.
How do we feel about leaving back the Mutavault there?
It's probably fine. I think he wants to. He may just want to be able to trade the Mutavault, or have a potential blocker. I think he's recognized that his own life total is probably what's important to conserve here.
Okay.
You know, his Pack Rats aren't going anywhere. There's too many of them.
Mutavault's going to attack now. David Daniel does have a Devour Flush and a Dark Betrayal in his hand, so he's attacking with just 1 Mutavault here. If you're Rivera, do you block with your Mutavault? Do you take 2 and go down to 8? Risk the chance of maybe getting Runner burned out.
Well, looks like he's going to go to 8.
Okay. Rivera's going to draw a card here. He'll draw a Pack Rat.
I think I would have been okay with that trade because the Devour Flesh meant I would have gained life. Yeah, I would have been down to 1 Pack Rat, but that's fine.
Activate Mutavault, turn them all.
This is stronger, though.
Yeah. Start with Dark Betrayal.
Yeah, it's going to Dark Betrayal just a rat. And it looks like he says, all right, well, how much am I going to take?
Oh, I'm going to discard the Swamp.
Discard.
There's a Devour Flesh in response. You probably sacrifice the Mutavault here.
Yep, so Rivera will go up to 10. And these are still 3/3s. This is still a 6-point swing. The next swing will be lethal.
Yep. Daniel's going to draw a card. It's a Swamp. He has a Gray Merchant and a Swamp, and he's going to extend the hand. So Tim Rivera with Mono Black Devotion will be moving on to the finals to play against Stephen Phillips and his Blue-White-Red control deck.